And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, welcome. It is 5 p.m. in Puerto Rico, 4 p.m. in New York, and it is 10 p.m. in Spain. And welcome to another live bomb run. This is a special edition, a special time slot, 4 p.m. And that's because this game has to do something with Spain, and our guest is in Spain, and I don't want him to, to not be able to sleep tonight. So that's why it's at 4 p.m. But let's see, who do we have here? We have our winner from last week, Alan Salazar. Welcome, Alan. We also have Ouroboros. I hope I spelled that well. I pronounced that well. We have also Richard Kerr. We have Daniel Silverthorne. We also have here Wolf 13 from Dallas. And Alan, you got the game. Grant Takes Command arrives safely over there at your neck of the woods. That's great. We have also Dale Brady from Michigan. And we have Jose J. Sanchez from Murcia. Very well. We got our Spanish people here. And we also have Daniel Hernandez Iniesta. And Daniel, it's always great to see you. And I'll see you at the Bellota Con, of course, my friend. Okay. And Alan is saying hi from Colorado. We also have Sparky, 5960 from Australia, from down under. Wow. Truly international show today. And Captain Von Ondine. Good evenings or good afternoon. So who else do we have? Oh, we got Magnus from Sweden. So Sweden is in the house. And we have Epinamondas, also from Spain. Epinamondas, welcome. So welcome, everybody. So today is a very special show because we're going to dedicate the show to a game that is coming out. Well, it's actually out already on Kickstarter. It is The Other Side of the Hill. And we have the game here set up. And this is, of course, this is pre-production, but this is close to what production is going to be. And it's a very nice and appealing looking game. And it is a very different kind of game. And today we have with us the designer of the game, which is Carlos Márquez. He will be with us to talk about the game and to answer your questions. And we have, of course, we have a giveaway. So let's put the ticker for the giveaway. And the game that we will be giving away today is this one. This is Saratoga. And this is actually, it's kind of funny that I'm giving this game away. This is in shrink wrap. It's a 2009 edition. And the funny thing is that, GMT came up with its tri-pack that includes Saratoga and 2 other battles. And only in our hobby, things like this happen. You think you have a game that, it's in shrink wrap, and from the collector's standpoint, it is worth something. And suddenly GMT comes with a new game, same game in a tri-pack, which is a great value. I have it also. So I think this is a good game for any of you who don't have the series or don't have this specific battle to try it out. So the keyword is #Saratoga. #Saratoga, everybody. And this will include for people in the USA and also Canada. My Spanish friends, please hold out because the shipping will be murderous. I'm taking a chance here with Canada, but that's our game today. And we have also with us Patchwork Pictures. Okay, welcome. So we will be taking a look at the other side of the hill with the designer. And let's go, as a matter of an introduction, to introduce the designer properly, I will play to you the intro that I made for the video. I made an extended example of play video for this game. So we'll play the intro and then we'll bring in the designer, Carlos Márquez. Okay, here we go. So we have Carlos Márquez with us. Carlos, welcome to the live bomb run. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. And I'm very grateful for all the support that you've been showing this game and the design. So it's a great pleasure to be here. And it's only fair that I should be here with you.
Okay, and it's great to have you because, I know you from the Bellota Con. I think I met you in 2019 over there, which was my first time. And I fell in love with your game. I usually don't recommend games to anybody. I just show how they played, but I fell in love with this game. And I even have some video, which I'll play later a little bit, which is interesting about that time in 2019. And this is, for me, a very unique game. But before we start going into the game, let's talk a little bit about yourself. Can you tell us what do you do for a living apart from designing games, and how is that you became a war gamer and then a war game designer?
Okay, I'm a university lecturer at the University of Granada. I belong to the English department, so I teach English as a second or foreign language there. So I love language. It's my passion, and war games are my hobby. And I've been playing war games since I was 11, 12 years old. There was this Spanish company that published war games, and it was called NAC. And there were lots of preteens and teenagers who started playing NAC war games in the early 80s. And that's when I started. And we all started with those games. Then, in the 90s, after the crisis of board game companies and so on, NAC just went under. It disappeared. But this Masqueoka group has taken the name again, NAC Wargames. It has brought it up again. So for me, it's a beautiful thing. It's a thing of beauty that the circle is now full. I started playing games with this NAC company in the early 80s. And now my first game is being published by NAC Wargames, which is the same brand that I started with. So it's a nice thing, and it's a bit of serendipity going on in there.
Yes, and the funny thing about NAC, I have two of the old NAC games, the Spanish Civil War, and no, that's the only one I have, the Spanish Civil War, La Guerra Civil Española, from NAC. And NAC, what it means is Nike and Cooper. And you would think that Nike and Cooper are two British people who live in Spain. They're just fictional characters, right? Or fictional
exactly
names.
The owners of the company thought that having an English name would be glamorous, so that's why they chose this Nike and Cooper, and they were probably called Gonzalez or Garrido or whatever. But they chose Nike and Cooper because it gave a nice, mysterious, universal, sophisticated ring to the brand. But yes, they were located in Madrid. So.
Okay. And so this is this your first, this is going to be your first published design, The Other Side of the Hill?
Yes, and I've been designing games, I guess, ever since I started playing games, and but I never actually intended to play them. My friends indulged me, and they played with me at the games that I designed. And this game was a little bit like that. I just designed it for, as an intellectual challenge, never, from a professional perspective, although it's something I've been reading about all my life. And it was precisely in that bellota when I was lucky enough to meet you when we met. I also met Volko Runke, and some friends insisted that I should show it to Volko. And Volko, being the sweet, generous man that he is, he told me that he thought that there was a possibility of this game being published, and he actually helped me and advised me about the game, and he became sort of a mentor to me. So after that, I just brought the game to some companies, and in the end, NAC Wargames was the one that decided to bring it on, and I'm very grateful to them too. Okay, I have another game.
Yes, I was going to ask you, because you have another game in the pipeline.
There's another one which is on the P500 page of GMT. It's called Imperial Fever, and it's along the lines of Versailles 1919 and Time of Crisis. So it's a deck building game which recreates the great competition between empires at the end of the 19th century up to the beginning of the First World War. The game ends, one of the possible endings of the game is with the outbreak of the First World War. So yes, that's my second project. So once I saw this first game out there and I saw that there was interest, I just, became ambitious. And I brought this second game, which is doing well too on GMT. P500, I think it's over 400 pledges now. So I encourage everyone to go there and have a look and see if they can be interested in also supporting that game.
Okay, and you've gone to the Bellota Con more than once, right?
I've been to every Bellota Con except for the first one, where it was more of a friends meeting. So I missed the first one, but I've gone to every one ever since, and I will be seeing you there, God willing, by the end of January this year too. It's a very big convention, and Sergio, the organizer, has always been very supportive of designers and of me personally. So I think that the very least I can do is attend every year.
So I will be interviewing you there again. We'll talk about over there at the other side of the hill, and we'll talk about Imperial Fever, which you already took to the Bellota Con. I know this year I saw it over there. I don't remember if it was there. I think it was there last year too. Yeah,
it's been there for 2 years. So yes, and I'll book you a place at the table in the test.
Okay, so to give an idea to the folks that are watching, the game that is in the Kickstarter, and by the way, the Kickstarter started already on November the 28th. And when does it end, Carlos?
It ends, there's like 16 days to go. So I guess it'll be like the 18th of December, I think.
Okay. You check the Kickstarter page for the game. So the Kickstarter is already underway, and we'll talk about the Kickstarter after we watch the video of the Kickstarter so that everybody can take a look at the game, how it looks like. And I also have the game set up here, which we will take a closer look later on. So let's take a look now at the promotional video that NAC made for the Kickstarter of The Other Side of the Hill.
On September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, triggering the start of World War II. After 3 years of dazzling victories and conquests, Germany would come close to controlling all of Europe. However, the tide turned, and the last 3 years of the war witnessed the long and bitter decline to the final defeat of Germany, with the Soviet flag flying over the Reichstag. How were those astonishing early victories accomplished? Could Germany have held out longer and forced a peace settlement? Would the most ruthless regime in history have collapsed earlier if any of the assassination attempts on Hitler had succeeded? What if the invasion of the USSR had been delayed by a year, or France had held out a little longer? The Other Side of the Hill explores these and many other questions from an unprecedented perspective. You and up to 3 other players can find the answers by rotating through the various roles that collectively stand for the German High Command. The political and military direction of the war, the management of reinforcements, the unrest of the officer corps, the relationships with Axis satellites, the military operations and command assignments, the nation's civilian and war production, the strategic air and naval warfare. All this and much more will rest on your shoulders. You will also pursue your own secret agenda, which will influence your decisions. And your decisions will shape the course of history and the destiny of Germany. Unforeseen events, infighting, internal sabotage, personal rivalries, and the accumulation of power at any cost. Experience World War II from the other side of the hill.
So there is the video, the Kickstarter video for The Other Side of the Hill. So let's imagine, Carlos, that this is the first time that the people take a look at this game. So what is The Other Side of the Hill?
Okay, it's a simulation of the European theater of World War II. And what is new about it is that all the players, be it 1 or up to 4 players, all of them take the place of the German High Command. So it is a game that focuses on the influence of command decisions and also how command is organized in a totalitarian state, how that interferes with the management of the strategic war. And it includes everything that plays a part in a war at strategic level. You have production, you have diplomacy, you have political choices, military campaigns, strategic warfare, minor countries, all that is included there. So at heart, it's a simulation of World War II from the point of view of the German High Command. But the original thing about it, from my point of view, is that it is the first time that the interferences, the problems, the dysfunctions within the High Command are included in the game, and you can see the effects of that on the development of the game. That is why it's called The Other Side of the Hill. It's the title of the book by Basil Littlehart, published shortly after the war, and it includes interviews of the German generals that were held captive by the Western Allies. Okay, it reuses a quotation by Wellington, and he meant that the other side of the hill is where the enemy is. So the other side of the hill is looking at World War II from the point of view of the enemy.
Okay, so it is. There is a game for 4 players, but I know that you have several modes of the game. It is a multiplayer game for up to 4 players, but what other modes does the game include?
There is a competitive game, and that implies that between 2 and 4 players compete to win the game. This is not one of those games. It's not like Republic of Rome where everybody loses if Rome collapses. In this game, even if Germany collapses, 1 player is going to win. Actually, there is even likelihood of one of the players being a dissident, or rather representing the dissidents to the regime, which were to the Nazi regime, which were the real heroes of the story, people who were trying to stop the war. So these people can be there, and these people can be working in secret, trying to make it difficult for Germany to last as long as it originally did. So this competitive players are trying to get prestige through the game, and the player with highest prestige is going to win by the end of the game. You can also play cooperatively, or you can play solitaire. The cooperative solitaire rules are very similar to one another. The only difference is that in solitaire play, you take all the roles. The same player makes all the decisions. In cooperative play, the roles are distributed among players, and so are generals. And in this solitaire and a cooperative play, the players lose if Germany collapses before spring 1945. Okay, and if Germany survives up to that point, then you have to look at the state of the map, see how much you control of the map, see how much the German army identifies with your regime, and see how many technological projects you have managed to finish, to complete. And depending on all that, you count how many victory points you have, and then you can win the game, you can lose the game, you can get a marginal victory or a major victory. I can tell you that I've played solitaire many games, and I've never managed to get a major victory. So it's not easy, to win the game, and it's very difficult to get a real major victory. The game is designed so that Germany is always going to lose the war. Germany will always lose the war. It's never going to be able to win it. So the question is whether Germany will be able to last as long as it did, but they're always going to lose the war. Actually, I've also tried to play the game beyond spring 1945 to see what happens, and I never managed to get Germany to survive beyond the summer of 1945. So the game is going to throw everything at you as it comes near the end, and it's very difficult to survive to the end.
Okay, and this thing, I'm going to show some parts of the board. I'm going to ask you some questions so that the viewers get an idea of how asymmetrical this game is at all times, and how, you can say, chaotic it is. And then I'm going to ask you later or soon, why is it so chaotic, and what is the chaos trying to simulate? But first, we saw in the videos that players can take one of 4 roles. And here we see, for example, the head of production. What does the head of production, a player that is handling the head of production, what does he do?
Well, the head of production is responsible for the production table. So there are resources that Germany is getting every turn. So he decides where those resources are allocated. They can go to replacements. They can go to fund, or rather provide the resources for military directives, political directives, and production directives. So if you can look at there are 13 resources altogether, and you have to divide them among the different needs of Germany. That is the first thing that he does. Secondly, he's responsible for technological projects, which is below that. So there are projects. There you have the nuclear power project, which is very far from being completed. I don't know which power that is. Could that be the V weapons? Oh, the jet fighters. So the jet fighters are there on the way to be completed. I guess this is 1943. So yes, they are trying to complete them before 1944. So this will give you advantages in strategic warfare. And finally, the head of production is also responsible for strategic warfare, which simulates the Battle of the Atlantic and the bombing campaigns of Germany. Yes, that's strategic warfare. Okay.
And we see there's a level of strategic warfare. Let me put it. And then you have the technology here.
Yeah.
So you're keeping track of strategic warfare and technology.
Yes, that strategic warfare will tell you how many dice you roll during strategic warfare, and technology. The higher the technology, there are different kinds of dice. They are personalized, customized dice in this game. So depending on the level of technology, the dice that you roll are going to be better.
Okay. So now, in addition, we have another position here, which is one of the more powerful positions, I would say. The OKW
Yes.
chief.
That's the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, and that is responsible for the big decisions of the war. He is the one that decides which political directives are played, and which implies diplomacy, but also trying to make the German army as identified as possible with the obnoxious Nazi regime. Then he's also responsible for choosing military directives, which is which campaigns are going to be waged on the map. And he also has the power to overrule the decisions of other players. He gets prestige points from the fanaticism value, and the more he overrules other players, the faster fanaticism is going to go down. Yes.
So here we see, for example, this, and I have the game set up for the 1943 scenario. We see fanaticism is at 9, and then there's an interaction, a dynamic between the unrest track. What does unrest represent in the game?
This implies how happy the generals are with the conduct of the war, and how happy they are with how they are being treated. So, for instance, imagine that I don't know, the head of production decides to play a certain technology card. Then the OKW is going to overrule him and say, no, don't play that card. I want you to play this other card. By doing that, automatically the unrest value increases by 1. Okay, and when it reaches 3, it goes back to 0, and fanaticism is reduced by 1. Okay, so unrest is going to increase, and when it reaches 3, every time it reaches 3, fanaticism goes down by 1. So yes, OKW has the power to overrule other players, but by doing that, he's actually playing against his own goals.
And so the fanaticism represents the amount of fanaticism for the regime, I suppose, right?
Yes, it's the identification of the German army with the regime. As I said, the title of the book is extracted from The Other Side of the Hill, which is one of the foundational books for the myth of the clean Wehrmacht. That is that the German soldiers were apolitical, the generals were apolitical, they were fighting a clean war. It was all the SS doing all the war crimes. This is not true. The German army, it's proved by bibliography, most of the Wehrmacht was identified with Nazi ideology, and this is what this track represents. Many of the war crimes that were committed, especially in the Soviet Union, they were carried out by Wehrmacht units. It was not the SS. So when you see fanaticism being that high, it's good for the OKW, and it's very bad for generals and for how they are going to go down in history.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you, you see that when a player has a specific role, and here we see that the game is set up for 4 players, and each of the players will have a color. This one is purple. You have 1 is red, 2 is purple. You have 3 is brown, and 4 over here is blue. So, for example, in this particular setup, we have that the OKW player is the player number 2, purple. But if we see the back of the OKW card, we'll see that it is gray in color. So what are the 2 sides what do the 2 sides mean in the game?
Okay. This one of the, I think, of the most interesting things about the game is that these section cards rotate through the game. That is, every year, at the beginning of every year, players choose section cards in inverse prestige order. That is, the player with the lowest prestige is going to choose first. So these sections of the high command are going to rotate around the players. Okay, and this implies that each player is going to be playing probably a different card every year. So you're going to be doing different things depending on the year you are playing. Okay, so one year you can be OKW, the following year you can be the head of operations, the following year you can be the head of production. But the moment comes, which is usually 1942, which is when Brauchitsch, who was the head of the OKH, Oberkommando das Heers, which was the ground army, he had a heart attack and he left the post, and Hitler took that post too. So a moment comes, and this can be as a result of a decision by Hitler or as an event, a random event. So it's going to happen anyway. So when this happens, the OKW becomes a permanent position. So the player with the OKW position becomes OKW up to the end of the game. This simulates the tightening of control by the OKW of the conduct of the war. So from now on, the conduct of the war is going to be much more coherent, and it's going to be controlled by a single player. And at that moment, he's going to get this OKW agenda card, which is his objectives by the end of the game. And there you're going to see that he's going to get 10 prestige points if Germany has not collapsed. And he's going to get prestige points at the end of the game, twice the fanaticism value. So if fanaticism is 8 by the end of the game, he's going to get 16 prestige points, which is a lot. Okay. Mm-hmm. The other players each receives a secret agenda card. Okay, so this agenda card is public. For the other players, the agenda cards are secret. So they are going to get their own objectives, their own agenda cards, and you can see there they are secret, and they're going to have different objectives. These are the sympathizers. These are generals that were very close to the regime. So their main objective is to have generals in power by the end of the game, and also to get the influence of their interest group to be highest. They get 10 points for that. And also they get points if all of Germany is safe. They have not got in there. These are the sympathizers, yes. So if Germany has not been entered by the Allies, they get extra points.
So so each player is going to have a different priority, and
yes.
It's going to be that. So you have that tension between each of the players. They're going to have different goals. Let's take a look in the example here. The player number 3, the head of personnel, what secret agenda he has?
He has the professionals. These are generals that were supposed to stay above politics, but that is a fallacy, because in the Third Reich, you were a part of the regime. So they claimed to be above politics, but they were supporting the regime. So what they are going to get points at the end of the game is by making or by getting German armies to survive. Armies are represented by cubes. White cubes are reduced armies, black cubes are panzer armies, and gray cubes are regular armies. So the more armies make it to the end of the game, the more points they are going to get. So there's a tension there, because you're going to get players trying to make the German to stay and fight and not retreat, and therefore have casualties rather than give up terrain. But this player, his goal is to save as many lives as possible.
Okay. And so let's take a look at the agenda card of the other player that we have in our example here, which is the head of operations. And his agenda is Old Guard.
It is the Old Guard. Okay, so these are the generals that started the war. They had been already officers during the First World War, and these are conservative generals. So their main point or their main goal is to keep the Russians out of Germany. So they are going to get points for each Festung sector in the East Front, which is not controlled by the Soviets. And they also get prestige points if the interest, if the influence of their interest group is the highest one. Okay, it's difficult for them because these generals are much more likely to be in command at the beginning of the war. These are von Bock, Rundstedt, von Leb. But as defeats happen, these are going to be dismissed. They're going to lose their jobs and they're going to be removed from the game. So late in the game, you're not going to get so many generals from the old guard. And the funny thing is that even though this player has the old guard, you can see that the generals that he controls, which are there on the right, they belong to all the interest groups. So you have Mackensen, who is old guard. You have Hoth, who is a sympathizer. You have von Manteuffel, who is a professional. You can see the symbol there. Otto Wöller, who is also a professional. Weiss, who is a professional. Kempf, who is a professional. And Ruoff, who is old guard. Okay, so even though his secret objective is to depends on the old guard, he's going to get generals from all influence groups, so all interest groups. So he's going to have to play it carefully so that he promotes the careers of the generals that, yes, that's Kesselring. He's also a sympathizer. So he's going to try to promote the careers of those generals that belong to his interest group. But he should also try to help the other generals because he's going to get points from all the generals he controls, not just the old guard. So there's always a tension there. Should I use this general that is going to give me prestige points at this point, but in the end, he's going to give prestige points to the sympathizers or to the professionals. There's this tension. Should I go for my short-term prestige points or for my long-term prestige points?
And then there's agendas. We have that each player has one. So we see 4 cards here, but there's a total of 5 agendas, right? There's always going to be one agenda that is no one's going to have, right?
Yes, and in this case, I guess you did it randomly. It's the dissidents that stay out. So in this game, there would be no traitor or there would be no hero because they have been left out randomly. So the OKW is never going to know whether there is a dissident player. There is a player whose goal is to make Germany collapse. It's 20 prestige points that he gets if Germany collapses. That's a very big score there. So this is going to simulate a little bit the paranoia of the OKW, Hitler's paranoia. So he's going to be not trusting the other players' decisions because they might be plotting against him because one of them can be the dissidents player.
Okay. And now generals, we see here, for example, in the setup, we have generals, for example, that are in certain boxes, the available generals here. And you have also generals that are commanders of army groups or fronts. Fronts are the OBs. For example, in the case of this player, Brown, he has von Kluge and Manstein already on the map. And we can see over here that von Manstein is the army group commander here in Ukraine. So let's take a look. Can you tell us about each of the spaces? Because the spaces follow a specific format, as we see here. What are the elements here of each of these spaces?
Okay, so the top half of the box, that's the army. That's the army box. That's where you place the armies. So in this particular scenario, what you have there is 3 army groups. Sorry, there are 3 armies. It's and every time you have 2 or more German armies, you can have an army group commander, which is the case here. Okay, in this case, the Ukraine is occupied by the Axis. There should be a wooden disc in number 3. So this implies that the whole area is controlled by the Axis. However, if you move the screen a little bit down to von Kleist, okay, there, that area, you have a disc, a black disc and a red disc. So this area is actually disputed. So the alignment marker should show the other side. Okay, right? So the whole point is the Germans are going to try to move their black disc to the right so that they control the whole area. So they're trying to take Rostov, so they would push exactly the red disc away, and then the area would be occupied. Whereas the artificial intelligence is going to, which is going to control the allies, is going to try to push the German disc to the left. Okay, so that exactly, if they manage to take Odessa, then the whole area is going to be controlled by the Soviets, and the disputed area becomes a Soviet-controlled area. So this is what how control of the areas is shown, and the relative control of each of the areas.
Okay, so and there's some areas that have a fist symbol. Let me see if I can find one of those here. For example, here we see Poland.
Yes, this implies that there are partisans active there. So the Axis may not move the last army from there. You may want to take two of those armies there. You may want to take them to the front to use them there, but you could never take the last one because there are partisans there, and you need to keep some military presence in the area, even though it is occupied by the Axis.
So the Germans are going to have always like a shortage of armies in order to meet the challenge of the Soviets and the Allies, right?
Yes.
So we see also yellow cubes. What are the yellow cubes that we see here?
Those are satellite armies. These are armies that belong to the satellite countries: Romania, Bulgaria, Italy, Hungary. However, the game is a bit of a sandbox game in that you can actually, if you start playing 1939, you could get Yugoslavia, or you could get Greece, or you could get Spain, or you could get Turkey. You can try to turn them into Axis allies. It's not going to be easy. You're going to need to be lucky, and you're going to invest resources in that. But yes, you can have satellite countries. The historical ones are easy to back. But those alternative countries, such as I tell you, Yugoslavia, Greece, Spain, you can try to bring them into the Axis fold using those political directive cards, those diplomacy cards. Yes.
So the game includes, I understand, elements that happen historically. For example, you can bring Italy to the war, you can bring Hungary, Romania / Bulgaria, like historically happened, but also you can use. You can try to bring Spain into the war. I know that you can try to bring Turkey into the war, and those are the possible satellites. Let me show here the Axis satellite army display so that the viewers get an idea. So here we see the possible satellites, and this number represents what?
Those are the satellite armies that should be placed there when the country has been activated. This is the 1943 scenario. So yes. Even though Italy, Hungary, and Romania, Bulgaria, they are Axis satellites, they don't have any more armies. They have been destroyed on the field. Okay. They can't build any more armies now. Okay. They were built and destroyed.
Okay. And talking about the specific roles, we were with the OKW role. And I think the next one that we were going to talk about would have been this one, the head of personnel.
Yeah. The head of yes, sorry.
Yeah. Can you tell us what the the head of personnel does in the game? What are his responsibilities?
Okay. What he more than responsibilities, he's got advantages. He is the first one to choose generals when they enter play at the beginning of the year. And he also gets to replace generals on the map. If he has generals with higher seniority available to him, he can replace them, and he also gets prestige points at the beginning of the year for every general he's got on the map. And when there is a vacancy needs to be filled, players nominate generals, and if there is a tie in seniority, the head of personnel chooses. He breaks the tie. He's the one who chooses who is going to take that particular command position.
So he has that power of breaking ties in the appointment of generals that have equal seniority. So let's take a look at the general cards. And here we see a very familiar face, Rommel. So yeah. What are the ratings that we see here?
Okay, so you have 1940 is the year when he enters play. He's a professional soldier. That's the symbol below the year. And there are two numbers, two figures there. The top number, the blue 6, is his seniority. That is, the higher the seniority, the more likely he is to be appointed to command on the field and to lead the armies in battle. And the lower figure, the red 6, is his confidence. That is how likely he is to be dismissed after he makes a mistake, after he loses a battle, after his armies withdraw. And in this case, it's a very high number. So 6, you roll a die, and if you roll higher than your seniority number, you are dismissed. In this case, if you roll a 5 or lower, he would stay in command. If you roll a 6, he would become a dissident, which is what actually happened to him. He lost his command in North Africa. He lost his command in France. So in one of those die rolls, after he lost his command, he rolled a 6, and he became a dissident.
Okay, and becoming a dissident can happen then to any general that is questioned after losing a battle, right? If you roll the same number as the confidence rating, you become a dissident, right?
Okay, and you can also become a dissident. So you also become questioned if there is a military campaign and you have not achieved the goals. If you are an army group commander and you are involved in a military campaign and you have not achieved the goals set to you by the OKW, all army group commanders are questioned.
Okay, and then there's a combat effect that all the generals have, right?
Yes, in this case, he is limited. His effect is can only be activated in Libya, Egypt, Northern Africa, and the Middle East. So he's only good fighting there. And you can see there's a blue star. It implies that his activity can only be activated against the Western allies. And there's a stuka, which is very appropriate for this channel. And that implies that his activity can be activated in attack. The white background means any terrain. The shield implies that he can be activated for defense, also on any terrain. So he can be activated in any battle against the Western allies, in attack or in defense, on any terrain, but only in Libya, Egypt, Northern Africa, and Middle East. And the effect is that one army fights as a higher quality. So a regular army fights as a panzer army, a reduced army fights as a regular army. So he improves the quality of one army under his command, which is a very good thing.
And you were talking about the armies, and the colors of the armies denote the die that the armies roll, and we have custom dice in this game, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So here we see, for example, the gray dice are for regular armies. For the black dice are for panzer armies, and the white dice are for reduced armies. So the panzer, the black dice have a better chance of causing more hits than the regular, and the regular more hits than the white army. Is that correct?
Okay, exactly. And the white army more than the satellite armies. Satellite armies are, the worst in terms of equipment, actually. Yes. So exactly. So you want to roll as many black dice as possible. You want to roll, if you don't have black dice, you want to roll gray dice, or you want to roll better white dice than yellow dice. Yes.
And then I notice also one thing that is striking is that each general has like a different effect, and the effect takes into consideration against whom the general is fighting, either the Western allies or the Soviets, whether the German army is an attack or defense, and the terrain of the where the battle is taking place. So it's pretty specific as to certain circumstances. And you saw the ones for Rommel, but for example, if we take a look at this other general that doesn't have the confidence of Hitler like Rommel, this one has only a 4 Harp. He has a different effect than Rommel here, so it gives it a distinct flavor and taste for each general. So that you don't see I didn't see two generals that were the same in all ratings.
No, and there are over 50 generals, and each one has a different effect, and those effects represent his actual career or how good the troops are under his command were. For instance, von Rundstedt, he in every battle where the Axis is the attacker in planes, he adds 1 to the Axis combat roll, which is 1 hit can make the difference between victory and defeat. So it's a very powerful effect, but it doesn't necessarily mean that von Rundstedt was that good. It means that the troops that he commanded at the beginning of the war, they had such an advantage in France and in the early run in the Soviet Union that this represents him. But there is something which is funny, I think, and I think it's interesting. You can nominate a general even if he won't affect combat. Okay, so you can, for instance, you can nominate Rommel for a battle in Russia. You can do that, no problem. You can bring him there. The only difference is that his combat effect is not going to be activated. Mm-hmm. But imagine that there is a battle in Russia and you think that it's going to be easy to win, so you're not going to need any particular effect. So you nominate Rommel there, so he doesn't, his effects do not get activated. But if you win the battle, despite not using those effects, you're going to get prestige from there. So sometimes a player is going to nominate a general who is not the best for that particular battle, but he's going to do that because he thinks the battle is easy and he's going to get those points. And this simulates the fact that it's not always that you get the best commanders in the right place at the right time.
And this takes me to the question you have in this game. We've checked. We've seen the head of production, the OKW chief, and the head of personnel. And the head of personnel has specific responsibilities as all of the other players. Now let's go to the last role here, which is head of operations. Let me see if I can take care of the glare there. The head of operations has different functions from everybody else. Is that correct?
Yeah. This is the guy that moves the armies around. So he's the one that places replacements for the Luftwaffe and for the Wehrmacht. And he's also the one that is responsible for moving the armies in the operational movement phase. So he's the one that is going to be moving the armies and is going to shuffle them around depending on where the offensives are going to be. But again, the whole point is about tension. Imagine that you are the head of operations, but you also control, I don't know which army group commander he controls, but imagine that he controls von Manstein. In this case, he controls Kesselring, okay? So he controls Oberst Sud, okay? So when he places replacements, is he going to place replacements equally, or is he going to place replacement to favor Kesselring, who is his commander? He's going to be favoring his own commander, Kesselring. So there is this tension between what is good for Germany and what is good for me as a player. So this head of operations is going to be taking particular care that his army group commanders are well provided with troops. But there is this tension that he also needs, to make sure that Germany is doing fine, because he's also going to get points. So areas controlled by the Axis in the Eastern Front. So there is this tension. Should I be selfish and just bring reinforcements to my generals, or should I think about the greater good and distribute reinforcements in a more equitative way so that Germany will last longer?
And we see that these four roles, if you're playing the campaign game, you start in 1939. So each year, these roles can change until the reorganization of the Wehrmacht happens, in which case, as you stated, the player that gets the OKW role keeps it for the rest of the game, right?
Exactly. Yes.
But so you have each year, you have these role changes. And those roles that change each year, a player, if he's head of production for 1940, he'll be the head of production for the whole year. So what does this changing of the roles simulate as to the German High Command?
Yeah, we have this idea that the German machine was a well-oiled, perfect product that where everything was working very well. But the more you read about World War II and the more you read about the German High Command, the more you realize that there was lots of overlapping and there was lots of waste in resources. And that is because Hitler, like most dictators, he tended to give his subordinates overlapping areas of decision so that they were vying with each other, and he would be the ultimate arbiter. He would be the referee that would decide who was right or wrong. And this is typical of all dictators. Franco did the same thing in Spain. Now, this is good because that implied that Hitler remained as the supreme arbiter, but it's also a recipe for redundancy. It's a recipe for incoherence in decision making, and that is what this rotating of section cards implies, that there was no coherence throughout the war as to production, as to operations. As I was telling you earlier, Rommel was at the gates of Egypt, and maybe one more German panzer division sent to him in 1942, in the summer 1942, could have pushed him or helped him push through El Alamein and into Cairo and Suez. But that division was never available for him there. Okay, but then when he was defeated and he was fighting his way back all through the north of Africa and Libya, and the Allies landed in Morocco and Algeria, the torch landings, all of a sudden OKW decided that it was okay to send a couple of German panzer divisions to Tunis. Okay, so those panzer divisions that could have made all the difference in 1942 were sent in 1943 when it was too late, and all they did was they were sent there, and the panzers were lost there, and the personnel were lost there, and they all became prisoners of war or casualties. So this lack of coherence, this overlapping of decision, is what the game simulates by having the head of sections rotate all through the game. Because even in 1942, the head of OKW remains head of OKW, but the other sections keep rotating among players.
Okay, and now what you see here is the turn. You have the turn structure, the segments, the turn sequence divided here in these very handy boxes. So each turn starts with an admin phase, and then you have the bombing of Germany, and you proceed through each one of the segments here. You have the economy segment, and then after you finish with the economy segment, and you go and you finish with the administrative phase, you go to the operations phase and you resolve each one. And then you see that the role, the section of the High Command who is relevant to resolving each one of these is specified. So you would have that strategic warfare is conducted by the head of production. So you have it stated here. And we have, if we look at the turns, which is curious, is that each turn, as you see here, has an administrative phase and an operations phase, except summer, where you have two operations phase. And I guess that simulates that there's more military activity in summer than in the other seasons of the year.
It's because of the weather.
Okay.
The weather is better in the summer, so all the big offensives, Barbarossa, Case Yellow, Case Blue, Citadel, all those, and also the Allied offensives. I mean, Overlord, Bagration. The big offensives took place in the summer. because that's when the weather is good, and that's where you can take advantage. The days are also longer, so you can fight longer, you can fight better. So these operations, there is more room for maneuver in the summer, which is very good for Germany in the early war, and it's very bad for Germany in the late war, because it means that you're going to be attacked for 2 operations phases before you get replacements in the autumn. You get replacements once, and then you fight 2 operations phases, and then you are going to wait until the fall in the administrative phase of the fall turn, and that's where you're going to get your replacements again. So there's lots of attrition during the summer. Also, you're going to play 2 strategic warfare segments, which is going to be very bad for Germany in 1943, 44, 45, because strategic warfare is going to be very uphill, and that's going to affect German industry and your replacements.
Now, when the year ends, you go to what's called a New Year's phase, right?
Yeah.
And here is when new generals are there's various things that happen. New generals are selected, and then the new cards are selected by the different players. For example, I know that there's a planning phase where the OKW chief selects military directive cards as well as political directive cards. Am I okay? Am I correct?
Exactly. There are over 20 something available military directives, historical ones like Wacht am Rhein or Barbarossa, and also other which never happened, like for instance Sea Lion, or also offensives in the Middle East, or the invasion of Spain, or the invasion of Turkey. So you have historical campaigns and other possible campaigns. Okay, but at the beginning of every year, you can't. You can't choose any directive at any point. At the beginning of the year, you're going to select 5 campaigns that you're going to have available for the whole year. Okay, so it's not 20. You're going to choose only 5 of them. So you need to plan carefully what you're going to be doing that year, so that it implies. I think well, from the point of view of simulation, it implies that you can't really improvise the invasion of Russia. You can't improvise the invasion of Turkey. You can't improvise Sea Lion. So you need to plan ahead. So that's why you need to choose 5. And from the point of view of the players, it also simplifies their choices, so that each turn you don't have all the possible cards to choose, but only the 5 that you selected, you shortlisted for this particular year.
Okay, In 2019, I was able to take a look at this game with you for the and I met you at the Bellota Con, and I managed to film the part of the planning stage where you were showing Volker Runke, who was the OKW chief at the time, the options that he had as OKW chief in selecting military directive cards for the year. So I managed to record it, and let's take a look at that dynamic. And by the way, you're going to see images of the cards superimposed. Those are the images of the cards in this edition, in the edition of the Kickstarter edition of the game. Remember, this is 2019, and you're explaining to Volko the options that he has in 1941. This is the planning stage for 1941. So let's take a look at this video.
It could be possible, yes, because Italy can go into war if you don't want them to. This is very difficult because this is to attack Russia. Okay, so we're not going to do that. Right. Well, you are the one who decide. Okay, so we don't do that. This is the second season for Barbarossa. This is Typhoon. This is Sevastopol, Leningrad. There's also a clue. You can look at down here. You have the year when they were actually carried out, or if they were just in the planning stage. They never. Leningrad, yes. Fall Blau, which requires Typhoon. Ida, which requires controlling Libya. Possible. Okay, difficult because you would need to be able to send armies there. Yes. Iran, Iraq, very difficult. Citadel, possible. Yes, Waffen, nothing there. That is for retaking Budapest. So this is the end of the war. Okay. Occupying Vichy could be interesting, but the bad thing is that you occupy Vichy, but they will fight from here. So it's not interesting to opening that. And that those are local offensives that you can play, provided it is not the winter.
Okay. I mean, just to throw a twist, should we try to do this early?
You can forget about United Kingdom, and then you choose either Greece or Yugoslavia. For instance, it's your choice.
So this might be a reasonable.
It's the historical one.
Oh, Marie de Mercoeur also, although it's 41.
Yes.
Okay.
Or you can go for Spain.
Oh, Isabella.
And then Gibraltar
Felix. Cool.
later. Okay, you go for the historical
Let's go with those.
So he was at that video was 2019. That was what, 4 years ago, and those are what caught my attention. You're pondering those decisions that are going to have an effect that year because you're OKW chief. Now, next year he could be the head of production, so he has other problems to tackle. So the one thing that called my attention to the game is that you're playing different roles each year, which is very cool because most games you're stuck to a role for the whole game. And the other cool thing is you don't know which role you're going to play next year either. So it's not automatic. So all this chaos that you told us that it is to simulate the incoherence and the lack of a North in the German high command is built in the game by the changing of roles, right? But each role has a different set of responsibilities. And this was just the planning stage and part of the planning stage, because here we didn't see the political directive cards, only the military directive cards.
Yeah. It was very nice seeing Volko there. As I told you, he was. It's all thanks to him. So the fact that this game is going to be published, so I am really, really grateful. And it's very nice seeing that moment there. And I have also lost some weight. I can see that.
That's good. That's good. And
yeah, that's very good. Yes.
Let me see if I can get on the screen. Let me see if we have some questions, because I'm sure we have questions here. Okay. Let me see here. Here's a suggestion that Maganite is making, that the system can work with Japanese and Russia high commands. Yeah,
it could.
I think I told you we had a Kickstarter show with in Spanish, and this same problem that Germany has in World War II is a problem that is present in all countries that are fighting, where you have different competing interests, right? And I'm sure the Japanese had their sort of problem. Stalin, we know what happened if a general Stalin, if he retreated too much with Stalin. So
Stalin had a little bit less of a problem because he got rid of all the generals with the purges before the war. So he had a tighter control of the German officer corps. Actually, Hitler said that he should have done like Stalin and shot all the generals. So, but yes, I think this is particularly appropriate for totalitarian states and dictatorships. Japan had its own problems, particularly between the Navy and the Army, and they were shooting each other and killing each other in the streets of Tokyo. There was attacks and attempts on one another. So yes, Japan would also be very, very interesting choice there. Also, the Spanish Civil War could also be another interesting topic, one that I'm also familiar with because I've read a lot about that. The American Civil War, where generals were also very important. That will also be a very interesting, the First World War. So it could be applied to many, but
with Napoleon's marshals,
exactly. Yes.
Favored some over than others.
Exactly. But let's take it easy. Let's get this Kickstarter out of the way, the game out of the way, and then we shall see. We shall, how do you say? We shall cross that bridge when we come to it.
That bridge when we get there. So let me see if I can put here in the share screen option. Okay, and remember, we have 12 entries for Saratoga. So let's do that now. Let's do this, and then we'll put the Kickstarter information. So we have everybody that is interested, hashtag Saratoga. Let's give out the raffle now, and then we'll conclude. We'll go with the Kickstarter section, and we'll conclude there. So good luck, everybody. Let's see who wins this 2009 edition of Saratoga. Let me hit the button, and here we go. And the winner is Patchwork Pictures. So Patchwork Pictures, okay, I think this is the first time you win. So please send me an email at stukajoe@gmail.com. stukajoe@gmail.com with your handle. I'm Patchwork Pictures, and then your mailing address. And then you have to go through the drill. I'm going to give you like a confirmation code, which is a word. Place that confirmation code in the comments, and then I will send you the game right away. I'll be sending the game out actually tomorrow. So congratulations to Patchwork Pictures on that win there. So let's see if I can get our screen back here. And now let's see if I can get the
Joe,
yes.
Did I see Carlos Márquez Ponce there?
Yes.
That's my son. That's Carlitos.
Okay. Well, he was participating.
Hi,
okay.
Carlitos.
Okay. Hello to Carlos. Carlos also. Okay. So let me see
He's in Ireland now.
He's where?
In Ireland.
In Ireland. Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So we're international here with this specific edition. So let me see, share screen. Let me go to the one that I have here somewhere. Let me see. I know I have it open in another screen. Just a second, guys. Let me open it here in another screen. Okay. These are the things. Oops. Okay. Okay. Let's see if we see. War gamers were better reading rule books than
handling screens.
Oh boy, yeah. This is chaotic. Okay. Let me see. Check a screen. Okay, screen 1. That's not the screen. Screen 2. That's not. And screen 3 should be the one. Okay, there we have. Okay. So we have screen 3. And here is the other side of the hill, the Kickstarter. We're right now at 37,933 of a goal that was 31,952 goals. So we've surpassed the goal, right?
Yeah. The game is already fully funded.
And we have 16 days to go.
Yeah. So now it's a question of how many stretch goals are going to be liberated. The first one has already been liberated. So the stretch goals include extra cards, includes some improvements to the components of the game. For instance, the next stretch goal is changing the pawns that the game has now to indicate where the offensives are going to be. They would be replaced by wooden cylinders with a printed image of a tank or something that evokes what they represent.
Okay, and let's talk about the price, because people sometimes the Kickstarters, they get. I'm not going to say the companies. They pay the Kickstarter price and then they get the game cheaper somewhere else. But this is not going to be the case here. The price for the Kickstarter, I believe it's 60 euros. I think we're going to 60 euros.
But it's in dollars. It's less than that.
Okay, so I think we'll get here, and we have here there's an expansion here, the Twilight Generals expansion. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the game includes all the generals that had the rank of army or army group commander during the war. Okay, the thing is that after 1943, after the Germany started to go downhill. Um, Generals were quickly going through commands. They took command and they were dismissed 2 or 3 months later. So there were many generals that only stayed in command for about 1 month, 2 months. 2 months. The generals that the base game includes are generals that stayed in command for at least 3 months. These Twilight generals are generals that would enter the game in 1944, and these are generals which are lower in seniority, and they only became army or army group commanders late in the war, like in 1945 and so on. So they are not really generally necessary to play the game, but I think they give some nice extra variability to the choices that the players can make.
Okay.
And
So
this is
that's
free.
yeah.
This is free. So this is like if we didn't have the expansion, you would have to buy it separately. It would be 10 euros. But if you buy the game or if you support the game on Kickstarter, you will get that expansion for free.
Okay. And I've seen also some social goals that pertain to scenarios that have been already unlocked.
Yes. The idea is that the game, the original game includes 4 scenarios. They start in 1939, 41, 42, 43, and they end in spring 1945. What the social goals include are shorter scenarios that start in 1941 and end, 1939, 1941, another one which is 1941, 1942, another one which is 1942. So it's shorter scenarios that can be played in a gaming session in 3 or 4 hours.
Okay. And you can download the rule book if you go to the Kickstarter. We have the code there, and you scan it, and you can download the rule book, and it is in English. And one thing that I want to say, make it clear, NAC is a Spanish company, but they publish their games in English and Spanish. Up to now, they have published the English materials together with the Spanish, but this is the first game that they're doing an English edition and a Spanish edition. If you support the Kickstarter, later on you will be asked if you want the Spanish or the English version. So, because that's a question that I've seen some people pose. Well, where would I choose the version? You will be asked, and correct me if I'm wrong, later if you want the Spanish or the English version. But they're going to make one English version and one Spanish version, because I mean, from the looks of these components, it would be very onerous to include English and Spanish versions of the cards and other materials here, because there's a lot of cards.
Yes. I was very insistent, and the company was very understanding, and they were listening to me when I told them that I didn't want any fancy components like miniatures and things like that. That if I would like all the effort to go into making the game cheaper. That would be the whole idea on the Kickstarter. That is, have a very attractive price for the Kickstarter.
Yes. And I have a pre-production copy which is very close to what's going to come out, and I can tell the viewers there's a lot of components here. I mean, this is not a card-driven game, but how many cards, Carlos, come with the game in total of numbers of cards?
Okay, so in the base game, which is what you would get with a Kickstarter, it's around 200 cards. There are other cards which are included in stretch goals, and altogether it's nearly 240 cards.
Okay, and the cards that I'm showing here are the ones that you use for the 1943 scenario. There are other cards that you don't need for this scenario. So there's a lot of cards in the game. You have wooden chips, and now the pawns, which have been substituted for cylinders, which are much nicer. So the game is the Kickstarter is at $65 or 60 euros, and I understand that after that, the publication price, the regular publication price is going to be $90. So $65 is a very, very attractive price here. And here we have the videos that have been made for the game. So that this is on until, let me see what the date here. It's 16 more days to go.
Yeah, that's what I told you. It's 16 more days to go. But the game is already fully funded. So it was actually funded in 48 hours. The 29,000 euros that were necessary to fund the game, they were reached in 48 hours. So I think it's been a great success. I am very humbled by the success, and I'm very happy that there were people that found it interesting. Now it's just a question of trying to reach those stretch goals and liberating improvements to the game, adding cards to it, and improving the quality of the components.
Okay, here's the question that I think we have to clarify is...
That was my mistake. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but one thing that I think we don't have to pay is the VAT. Europeans, you pay the VAT, right? So
yeah,
we
Spain would be 60 euro plus I think it's like 18 euro more. So it's like 78 euro in Spain. But yes, you're right. I had a mind slip there. So yes, it's more expensive in dollars because of the exchange rate. Yes.
Okay. So let me see if we have.
So William was on the mark there.
Okay, so this after the 16th, then the Kickstarter is over, and I think Masqueoka has announced that they intend to publish this game fairly rapidly for between July and October of next year.
Yeah, so, the thing about the game is that it's finished, and you are a witness of that. The game is finished. All the design is finished. The cards, the board, the design. I think only the expansion remains. The cards already exist, but we would need to put them in the format for the game. So it's all there. So it's just a question of as soon as the Kickstarter ends, we will move on to final production. So it will be again revising errata, adding material, making sure that everything is okay. Then it should go to the manufacturer. It would take a couple of months to manufacture, and then the time it would take to get to the backers. So there are no delays here on our side. I have done everything I can. So the game it's been a long time. I've been working on this for 10 years. So the game is finished and has been finished for 3 or 4 years. So we don't we can't predict any delays. Everything is already everything that needed to be done has already been done, and you have a copy of the game. So it's just a question of manufacturing the actual copies and getting them to the backers.
Yes. So Carlos, I think it's a wonderful game, and I've been looking forward to its publication. And I'm one of the lucky ones who has a pre-production copy, and I want to see it succeed because I think it's a unique concept. I think it opens a whole new genre of war games, which is the war that happens within a faction during a war, which has an effect on the war, which I think happens in most conflicts. So I want to congratulate you for thinking outside of the box, which is definitely, this game is surely a product of that. And with that, well, we're gonna say goodbye today, and I'm gonna play again the introduction to say goodbye, Carlos. Oh, and we have, just before I do that, let me do something that I should have done in a little while ago. And this is the best comment that I've seen here so far in the history of the live bomb run here. This is the one. So your son is very proud of you, Carlos. That must be a good feeling.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. We have just made a new update on the Kickstarter page. I want to thank you, Jose, Joe, for all your support, for all your help. It's really overwhelming to me, all the nice things that you say, and I definitely must buy you dinner in Badajoz this year. It would be my pleasure.
We'll have some tapas and some beer.
Yes,
some beer over
yes,
there.
yes.
Now at the Bellota Con, we have a hotel now. It's a 5-star hotel convention, and there's a lot of places to eat nearby. So I'm looking forward to seeing you again there in January very soon, Carlos.
It's going to be great.
Okay, so I wish you the best. And with this, I will leave you today. Today's been a special session, almost an hour and a half. And we still have 34 people. So thank you for tuning in. I'm going to place a link later on to the Kickstarter campaign in the comment section below. So check it out. Check the Kickstarter for The Other Side of the Hill, to be produced by NAC Wargames and designed by Carlos Márquez. And this is Stuka Joe with Carlos Márquez signing off for now. Thanks for watching, guys.